al-Baqi alive, you keep the message of humanitarianism, of justice, and you stab the hearts of the oppressors with the message of al-Baqi. Now we have one more speaker here, and then we will be moving back to the front. We're in a semicircle as we go across, and some of you stay close towards the end, and some towards the front, so the whole embassy, both sides, they can't hide from us. Now with this, I would like to invite a great scholar, a scholar of Islamic studies and an expert of Islamic history, Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani, to give us some words. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise is due to the Lord, all praise is due to the Lord, master of all the worlds, and peace and blessings be on all his prophets, and the final prophet of God, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My respected brothers and sisters in Islam, and my respected equals in humanity, I bid you the Islamic greetings of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Last week in northern Iraq, in the land of Mosul, an attack occurred which caused shockwaves around the world, and indeed caused outrage in many parts of the world. Many people were in disbelief when this attack took place. Indeed, many people could not believe their eyes when they saw the desecration of a personality who is loved by over 3 billion people in the world. For many years, when we were stressing on the fact that the heritage of the great saints was being destroyed, nobody would ever listen to us. Many times people would say that this was a Shia affair only, that nobody else should be concerned. Last week was a swing in this particular campaign, greater swing than there has ever been before. Prophet Yunus alayhi salam is revered by over 3 billion human beings in the world. In the Jewish community, in the Christian community, and in the Muslim community, he is seen as one of the arch prophets of God. The book of Yonah and his story is recited on Yom Kippur every year. The book of Jonah is one of the most important books in the Bible. And the story of Prophet Yunus is chapter 10 of the Holy Quran. In other words, the grave of Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, or the grave of Jonah, is a grave which is honored by 3 billion people. You don't need to be a Shia or a Sunni for you to honor that grave. Christians used to come to Mosul to honor that grave. The Jewish community knew of the land of Nainawa, that it had covered that province. Therefore, that grave in northern Iraq was a symbol for many human beings. And that's why the destruction of that grave is one of the biggest turning points in the Baqi movement and the future of the rebuilding of Baqi. Because before that, nobody would acknowledge that there were graves of great saints being destroyed day by day. When we mentioned Hassan bin Ali, they said Shi'i. When we mentioned Zayn al-Abidin, they said Shi'i. When they mentioned Muhammad al-Baqir, they said Shi'i. When they mentioned Ja'far bin Muhammad, they said Shi'i. When we mentioned al-Banin, they said Shi'i. But now when we mention Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, suddenly Yale took notice. And you found, for example, that Notre Dame took notice. And you found that the Jewish School of Rabbinical Studies in New York took notice. 3 different professors of biblical and religious studies took notice because of the bombing of one shrine. To the extent that Rabbi Benjamin Blech, who's the head of the Talmud studies in New York, said what used to unite us and the Christians and the Muslims was what? Was that shrine of Prophet Jonah. Now we are realizing that there are a group of Muslims who are the victims of Muslim terrorism. Now we're realizing that there are shrines in the world which belong to all of humanity, which are being destroyed by the whole of humanity. You found, for example, Joel Baden at Yale, Candida Moss At where? At Notre Dame. Both of them have written articles which have reached the Wall Street Journal. Both of them have written articles which have reached the CNN blogs. In other words, our movement to restore the graves and the shrines used to be a movement that was only our movement. Now the Jewish community saw Mosul, and the Christian community saw Mosul, and the Muslim community saw Mosul, and they saw there's only one common enemy: Saudi Arabia. No doubt, there's only one common enemy. For over 90 years, we have seen what they just saw in Mosul. One attack on Prophet Yunus' shrine, which is our shrine, caused shockwaves around the world. How about attacking the shrine after shrine after shrine after shrine in Medina? When we come now to look at the Baqi issue, it is vital that we address two members of humanity: the non-Muslim first and the Muslim second. As for the non-Muslim first, when we address them, we need to make clear that Islam is one thing, Muslim is another. When George Bernard Shaw said Islam is the best religion with the worst followers, they embodied that statement, no doubt. Islam, no doubt, is the best of religions, but sometimes you've got the worst of followers. When you look at the religion of Islam, the Holy Prophet never wanted to build a state where people were forced to follow his way. He never wanted to build a state where they destroyed churches or they destroyed synagogues. On the contrary, when he reached Medina and the Quran revealed the famous verses in Surah 22 verse 39 to verse 41, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدٌ. The Quran says, when people asked, why was there the battle of Badr? Why are the Muslims coming out to defend themselves? You would think the Quran would say that they've come out to defend what? They've come out to defend their mosques. No way! The Quran said, if it wasn't for us telling those companions to defend themselves in Medina, there would not be a single synagogue, church or mosque in the world. Yes? Because the religion of Islam recognized any institution where Allah is worshipped is an institution to be respected. Whether you worship your God in one way or the other, Ali ibn Abi Talib gives a lovely line. What does he say? The number of paths to Allah are the number of breaths we breathe. A Christian walks and sees a church. Imam Ali is walking, he sees a church one day. His companion next to him says, Mawla, I wonder how much shirk is being done in that church. To which the Imam replies, I wonder how much Allah is being worshipped in that church. The viewpoint of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was what? Was a viewpoint that when you see a church, that's where Allah's name is mentioned. When you see a synagogue, that's where Allah's name is mentioned. When he went to Medina, the Prophet wanted the sawami', the biya', the salawat, the masajid, the churches, the synagogues, the mosques to be honored. That's why even the Christians of Najran, at the event of Mubahala, they said to the Holy Prophet that we have a Kaaba by the name of Ka'bat Najran. It was their center of worship. Did the Holy Prophet turn around and say that we're going to destroy that church because that church has nothing to do with Islam? Not at all. He said, continue worshipping in your churches. Let you have rest in your churches. There is no harm you being in your churches. The Holy Prophet wanted any area where a personality had passed away, or God is being worshipped, or God is being remembered, to be honored. That's why even further than that, what do you find? Even we tell the non-Muslims that what happened in Bamiyan, in Afghanistan, not far from Kabul, when they destroyed the shrine of the Buddhas, even that goes against the religion of Islam. Because Muslims have to realize one thing: we can't just speak out for our causes and not forget the causes of other religions. That Buddha had no harm on any Muslim. Buddha himself never claimed he was God. Secondly, Buddha himself never said make a statue of me. Thirdly, to make an image of Buddha is only allowed from the ripples of water in Buddhism. It is not something to be worshipped. When the Taliban, funded by these terrorists, when the Taliban destroyed those Buddhist shrines, those Buddhist statues, that was against the ethos of the religion of Islam. That had nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Therefore, you find on the first level, when we look at this issue, we need to make it clear to the non-Muslims, this remains the only Muslim country so-called in the world that does not allow a grave site or a monument or a church or a synagogue in their country. They claim democracy. You're not allowed to have a church. Iran, which is seen as an enemy, has churches. Iraq has churches. Jordan has churches. Lebanon has churches. Syria, no democracy, yes, has churches. The country that is funded the most, that has such a beautiful embassy, is the one that does not allow the churches to be built. Therefore, on the first level, let's make it clear that Islam did not want a religion where you have these churches destroyed, where you have grave sites destroyed. These are people's heritage. Heritage is that which they have inherited, and therefore that is which to be respected. But then secondly, the onus goes out on the Muslims. When you come to the area of Baqi, Baqi is the first cemetery in Medina. How does a Muslim not bleed when he remembers the first cemetery in Medina? The first in Mecca, Jannat al-Mu'alla. The first in Medina, Jannat al-Baqi. Both of them have been destroyed. But look at the names of the personalities buried in both of them. When you look at the names in Jannat al-Mu'alla, let's not come to Baqi' Day and forget Jannat al-Mu'alla. There are many who are here today who know more about Baqi' than they know about Mu'alla. Whereas in Mu'alla we have Abu Talib buried there, the backbone of the religion of Islam. And never will we stop saying he's the backbone of the religion. The more you insult him, the more pride you have, which you give us to love him. Abu Talib, the backbone of the pillar. Abu Talib, who gave the valley for 3 years when Islam was in trouble. How could his grave be a grave with trash around it in Mecca now? Next to him, Khadija. Next to her, Amina, the mother of the Prophet. Abdullah, the father of the Prophet. Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet, the savior from Abraha. Therefore, the first of the cemeteries which the Muslims have to think about is not Baqi'. The first of them is Mu'alla, because that's where the holy saints of Ahlul Bayt and the backbones of Islam began. Then when it comes to Baqi', the first cemetery in Medina, the place where Rasulullah would go and bury people with his own hands. His daughter Ruqayya died there. She was the first female to be buried there. As'ad bin Surara, first of the Ansar to be buried there. Uthman bin Mad'un, first of the Muhajirun to be buried there. Great companions who were buried there and were meant to be honored. Then you look at who else is buried there. Is not Hassan the master of the youth of paradise? Is not Zain al-Abidin the master of supplications? Is not al-Baqi the one who splits knowledge from its core? Is not Imam al-Sadiq the teacher of Abu Hanifa and Malik? Did not al-Banin give away her sons to defend this religion? Even if I was to look at my brothers in Ahl Sunnah, you cry to me about a house being hurt in Gaza. How about the house of Rasulullah in Medina?
al-Baqi, 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 al-Baqi.
Every year we're hearing Gaza, Gaza, no doubt. Any oppression that takes place we speak out against. But you who cry when a house is hurt, how about the house of Fatima in Medina? You who cry when there are people whose graves are being hurt in Gaza, how about the graves of the grandsons of Rasulullah? You who cry about the oppression, how about your own imams? Imam Malik bin Anas, Imam of the Maliki school. Over 25% of the Muslim world follow his fiqh. Isn't it a tragedy that the Muslim Maliki in Tunisia, the Muslim Maliki in Morocco, the Muslim Maliki in Algeria, not one of them has spoken about the way they've treated Imam Malik? Even if we take it a step further, is not Uthman the third Khalifa for you? Isn't he buried in Jannat al-Baqi? Surely have some reverence when you claim that we're the ones who do not like such a personality. We're the ones who want to rebuild the graveyard which he's buried in. Therefore, when you look at Jannat al-Baqi, Jannat al-Baqi is neither a Sunni issue nor a Shia issue. It's about time the non-Muslim, and I address my non-Muslim brethren who are behind us, who we first have to thank for providing us with security here today, and secondly we have to address them in making it clear that the only reason we're standing here today is because if one day you heard that the Metropolitan Art Museum in Manhattan or the American History Museum just down the road, if you heard that there was a nation who went in there and completely destroyed all of it, it would surely break your heart. If where your parents are buried, someone came and vandalized the graves and graffitied them, it would hurt your heart. All we're saying is that no human being should accept vandalism of any cemetery, and certainly not the cemetery where our Prophet and his companions and his family are all buried. There was a famous line of poetry which I'll conclude with. Many of you may have heard it. It relates to Nazi Germany and it relates to the Holocaust. And one man said that they came for the socialists, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't speak out. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't speak out. Then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't speak out. Then they came for me, and there was no one to speak on my behalf. I tell you all one thing, this country over here will first come out against the Muslims themselves, and the people will turn and say, well, I'm not a Muslim, and they will then come for the Christians, and then they'll come for the Jews, and I promise you there'll be a day where you'll turn around and you'll see no one speaking out on your behalf. If all of us here in America can speak out for the basic concept of protection of heritage, then you'll see that all of us will have the most peaceful coexistence. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.